They warned that if he failed to arrest this, which possessed by demons, the Pope would revoke the legitimacy of his reign and cut off his supply of gunpowder for fighting his rivals. Kimpa Vita had long sensed the approaching danger. On countless starry nights, she would sit atop the ruins of the São Salvador Cathedral, gazing toward the north for a long time, her eyes filled with sorrow at the fate she foresaw. Her loyal followers urged her to form an army or flee deeper into the primeval forest for safety, but the delicate young girl only shook her head gently. She knew that if she took up arms, she would be no different from those blood-stained tyrants. She chose to stay and embrace the bitter fate awaiting her. The final blow that led to Kimpa Vita's total ruin came from an unexpected worldly secret tangled with human emotions. In the spring of 1706, Kimpa Vita, who had always claimed to be a pure saint above earthly desires, suddenly gave birth to a healthy baby boy in her thatched hut in São Salvador. The child's father was Barro, her devoted assistant. Enduring countless hardships side by side, the two inevitably shared a warm, forbidden love between ordinary mortals. For a religious leader who united her followers through sacred visions and the image of purity, the birth of this infant was a devastating spiritual blow, instantly bringing her down from the altar to the mortal world. Though she insisted the child was a sacred gift bestowed by the Holy Spirit on a Friday, her enemies, who had long waited for an opportunity, finally seized the fatal excuse to brand her a sinner forever. Guided by traitors, King Pedro IV's troops raided the poorly defended camp in São Salvador on a stormy night, arresting Kimpa Vita as she nursed her baby, along with her lover Barro. The believers who had once revered her wholeheartedly fell into disillusionment when they saw the so-called saint weeping while holding an infant like an ordinary peasant woman. Most fell silent, and some even turned against her out of fear, joining others in hurling insults. Kimpa Vita was fitted with heavy wooden fetters and escorted like a trophy to the crude royal court in Evora, to face a brutal heresy trial presided over by Portuguese missionaries. Inside the dark, damp and musty interrogation chamber, she endured endless malicious questioning and floggings from the missionaries. The 22-year-old mother never defended her ideas of a black Christ. She only shielded her baby tightly with her body. The fanaticism of divinity faded from her eyes, replaced by the utterly pure and humble plea of a mother. She was willing to confess to all her crimes and admit to being a liar, if only these cold-hearted men would spare her innocent child. Yet the fanaticism of politics and religion never showed the slightest mercy to a mother's tears. On July 2, 1706, the trial reached its bloody final verdict. Kimpa Vita and her lover Barro were sentenced to death by fire, to be executed immediately. The execution was held on a desolate hillside. Armed royal guards stood all around to stop loyal followers from attempting a rescue, while numerous commoners with blank expressions gathered to watch this exorcism. Kimpa Vita was roughly dragged toward a huge wooden stake. Her long hair fluttered wildly in the dry night wind. Tormented by prolonged abuse and malnutrition, her face looked gaunt and pale, yet her back remained straight, bearing the unyielding dignity of nobility. As the executioners prepared to bind her and Barro together, several missionaries stepped forward, trying to snatch the baby from her arms and cast the illicit child into another small fire pit. In that moment, Kimpa Vita summoned the last of her strength. She clung tightly to the infant, her sharp nails digging into the missionary's arms, and let out a shrill cry like a wounded she-wolf. Eventually, upon the king's intervention, perhaps out of a lingering fear of the divine, Pedro IV agreed to send the baby to a peasant woman in a remote village to be raised. But in return, Kimpa Vita had to mount the pile of firewood at once. Watching her child being carried away until it vanished from sight, the fear and frenzy in Kimpa Vita's eyes faded away miraculously, returning to the profound calm and compassion like still water. She let the rough ropes bind her firmly to the stake alongside Barro. Trembling and weeping with terror, Barro leaned against her. Kimpa Vita turned her head slightly, pressing her cold cheek to his, and whispered soft words to comfort the man who had walked with her until the very end. A torch was ruthlessly tossed onto the firewood soaked with oil. Orange flames burst forth instantly, like a greedy serpent, stretching its scorching tongues to engulf the two young lives. Amid the billowing hot smoke and the crackle of burning wood, no cries for mercy or curses escaped Kimpa Vita's lips. She simply closed her eyes tightly, repeating the name of the Virgin Mary over and over amid the flames, until her voice was swallowed by the fire, leaving behind nothing but charred dust on the red soil of West Africa. After Kimpa Vita's death, the civil wars in the Kingdom of Kongo never ceased. Instead, the realm plunged into deeper chaos and decline, until it finally became a complete vassal of European colonizers. King Pedro IV, who thought he had consolidated his power, also fell victim to the tides of history. The Portuguese missionaries who orchestrated the burning wrote triumphantly in their reports, "The evil witch of this land has been purged." For the next 200 years, colonial textbooks tried to erase Kimpa Vita's existence, striving to bury her name forever in the red soil of time. Yet history holds a gentle and ironic truth. Those who wielded guns and gallows thought they had destroyed a mortal body, unaware that they had forged an eternal spiritual icon for this land. Among the descendants of enslaved Africans taken to Haiti, Brazil, and the southern United States, the teachings of Anthonyism and the tales of the Black Saint were passed down secretly around campfires for generations, becoming a spiritual pillar for them to resist oppression and seek dignity. We retell the story of Kimpa Vita tonight, not to verify whether the visions she saw were real, nor to criticize the impracticality of her doctrines. We simply pause on this quiet night to gaze upon a lonely soul who, in the bloom of her 20s, tried to stand against the cruel machinery of the times with her frail shoulders. The story has come to an end, and night has fallen deep. The ancient smoke of war in Abomey and Sao Salvador, the heavy chains and the cold stake have all drifted into the long river of time along with the slow narration. The world outside is peaceful. Gone are the betrayals and slaughters of the 17th century, leaving only soft night and quiet breezes to watch over you. Kimpa Vita, the girl who lit a lonely flame in the darkness and offered herself up in sacrifice during the darkest times, must now hold her beloved child in a world free from enslavement and where love can flourish freely, drifting into the deepest and gentlest dreams. Now you may cast off all the weariness and burdens of the day. Close your eyes, and like the liberated soul, sink slowly into serene and healing sleep. Rest well, and may you have a peaceful night.